If you are a woman leader or a woman entrepreneur who's really curious about leading like a woman and you want to grow your business in a way that really honors all of who you are, and you want to be able to go faster because of your awesome feminine gifts and your awesome women values, you're going to love this interview. Katie Hendricks is going to share how to transform anger into something that you can really use in a healthy way in your business and in your leadership and in your relationships. She's going to show you how to shift from fear into presence so you can be resourceful and creative and just an amazing embodied leader. She's going to support you to speak up at a time when the world really needs you. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome. I am so excited for this interview. Katie, thank you so much for taking the time. I've been looking forward to this interview for years.
Well, it's wonderful to connect. And I also am so appreciative that technology allows us to do this. And, it's such a pleasure to be able to connect from wherever we are in the world and to be able to share, but also just to have that sense of deep connection, even virtually.
What an important point to stop and realize how damn grateful we are and how lucky we are to be having this conversation. And for those of you that don't know Katie, I'm sure you can already feel her. Katie Hendricks is an evolutionary catalyst, a contextual disruptor, and a freelance mentor who has been pioneering a field of body intelligence and conscious loving for 50 years. I just want to invite us all to take that in. 50 years. Dr. Hendricks is the co-author of 12 books, including the best-selling Conscious Loving, At the Speed of Life, and Conscious Loving Ever After, How to Create Thriving Relationships at Midlife and Beyond. I love it when somebody's bio actually helps me have aha moments. Check out this one. Katie specializes in translating concepts such as commitment into directly felt experiences that lead to new choices and creative engagement. Who doesn't want that? And Katie's coaching and leadership programs have generated hundreds of body intelligence and relationship coaches in the US and Europe and all over the world. And Katie's currently joining with her Foundation for Conscious Living community to create the Big Leap online programs designed to support people in coming home to presence, restoring resourcefulness, and creating caring communities. And I think that's what's so important when we're embarking on this conversation about the feminine. These are traditionally known, like these are more feminine values, community and presence. And, all humans on the planet have the feminine. And Katie, what do you think about this moment where we're seeing more women leading and we want to see that? And what do you think about the feminine in terms of leadership? What has your experience been in terms of helping women leaders navigate this as the feminine is so needed?
I so agree that the feminine is so needed, but I also am so aware that feminine is one of those words that's got a bunch of baggage on it now. And so that whenever we say feminine, immediately I recall one of my teachers in graduate school telling me, that I was so skilled and talented, but I could certainly be more feminine. And I almost punched him.
I would have punched him.
I was so like, what do you mean? And for so many years, I taught consciousness raising groups in the 1970s. And one of the things I did was to have people take on the characteristics that were in the California psychological analysis, sort of a personality analysis. And so I'd have them try these on. I wouldn't say which was masculine and which was feminine, but actually, how does it feel when you make yourself smaller? How does it feel when you wait to say something? How does it feel when you just take up all of your space? And so I tend to want to go more with unarguable descriptors. What are you experiencing? Do you feel you can make a choice? Can you connect with other people without giving up yourself? Do you know how to say yes clearly and how to say no clearly? Do you know where that comes from? So more of the characteristics that give women more choice and also more of a frame that they control rather than being reactive. So I'm not a real fan actually of masculine and feminine because there's so much you have to sort and go, well, I don't mean this, I mean that. And so what I'm really interested in, I was reflecting on that question because I knew we were going to talk about it. And my sense is that women lead through connection. Women lead through collaboration and connection, but also by recognizing and fostering the genius in other women. So, and for me, that comes from a genuine appreciation that I'm looking for what's working. I'm giving my sensitive awareness to what's unique about you that I can support. And then as I support that, what awakens in me is characteristics that I might have not really recognized. And so we have a mutual, it's like all of us being instruments in a beautiful orchestra. And each person is really encouraged to give their own complete, unique voice fully. And then that adds to everybody's creativity. But I think one of my students was just telling me the other day that one of the things she most appreciated learning from me was how to have love with a spine. And that's how I really defined because I've always been, I feel into people and I can see what they need and I have a tremendous empathy. But earlier in my life, I was sort of mushy in the spine.
Can we talk about this? Can we talk about like how you came to be Dr. Katie Hendricks? Like, there's so much beingness and awareness in you. I always just want to hear more and more and more. So like, what was this transformation like for you?
Well, I actually started. So as a kid, I could see, and I still can, but I could see energy. I could see when something was going on, when feelings were emerging. And I remember saying to my mother when I was about 3 or 4, I said, why is Mrs. Butler so mad all the time? And she said, oh, don't ever say that. Don't ever, So I really got that my awareness was dangerous and somehow not, there was something wrong with it. And so for a long time, I kind of, had it underground. And it really blossomed when I discovered dance movement therapy because I'd always loved to move. But in my dance classes, we always had to do this weird stuff that was from the outside, Martha Graham and all these, angsty things. And I said, basically, why can't we just move the way we feel? And that's basically the essence. And I met a dance movement therapist and immediately changed my life. I created my own independent major, back in the day when you could do that. And my degree I made it up, is in kinetic emotional communication. And so it was an interdepartmental. I took some from here and some from here. And then that just let me know that basically we can create anything that we want to in the world. And that just gave me such confidence. And I created my living. I was a single parent for many years, and I went back to graduate school when I was, in my late 20s. And that's when I met Gay. And meeting Gay, who is not only a genius, but a very powerful.
You guys are amazing together. For any of you that don't know, Katie and Gay teach together. For any of you that would love to teach with a partner and co-create with a romantic partner someday, like Katie and Gay are like one of the, I think, powerhouse thought leader transformational couples that I look to as such a beautiful example of two humans that have been able to dance together, but also maintain so much sovereignty.
Yes. And my interactions with Gay and my learning with him, especially in the first years, really allowed me to find my own space and my own. In fact, there's one example that I'll give you. When we first started teaching together, which we did almost immediately. We'd be like giving a presentation, and I would be standing next to Gay, and he would start, Gay is a big gesture.
Oh, yes, he is.
And he would be, and so at the break, I would say to him, hey, I have some things to share too. And I just wonder if you could make some space for me. And he said, no. He said, if you have something to say, just show up and say it. And it was like, this call to really taking responsibility for myself was really it was my own little earthquake. And I thought, well, I can do that.
Nice.
And so because part of it was, well, don't interrupt the man, I grew up with,
right.
All of that, kind of be a helper. And also I'm the second born. Okay. And my older brother was always called number one. My mother would say, I've talked to number one today. So,
oh my gosh, I've never heard of such a thing. It was like the universe was creating contrast and like literally like a rubber band so that you could just like sling out into the world as like, I'm here and I'm going to teach women to have a spine in love. Have a spine while they're loving. And that's what you've done. And it's like your life has been the perfect Shiro's journey to create this empowered woman that I know you to be.
And it was those kinds of contrasts because I had developed what I call now an Avis persona, because Avis's tagline is, we're number two, we try harder.
Oh my gosh.
And that's what I did. And it wasn't until those first interactions with Gay when I realized, of course, that I had projected my older brother onto him.
Oh, wow.
And of course, it was invisible to me, as it is invisible to most people who get into partnerships. They don't realize the lesson and the possibility until it kind of hits them in the face.
Right.
And so then that's when my real growth started happening, and a focus on what is unique that only I can offer. And I would say that really what I do is what I call the how of consciousness. Because a lot of people will say, well, all you need to do is just shift your fear, just move away from fear, but there's no how.
Right.
You're supposed to just be able to kind of do that with a mind meld or something. But
right.
I've developed all of these, dozens and dozens of processes that allow people to actually experience the power of consciousness in their bodies, in their day-to-day life, and in their choices, and to have fun while doing it.
I use your exercises all the time.
I'm so glad.
Maybe we could even teach a few, but you're speaking into this piece around women developing their voice and moving away from generalizing, trying to define what the masculine and the feminine even is. We have young people coming in who are, fluid, right? And what a relief that they're showing us that there's more to this duality, yes. This polarization. And that's always been something that feels true over here too. I created my own major too. So we're going to have to, jam on that sometime. I created my own college degree. And, I just love what you're speaking to around, as women, we just want to know how we lead. We lead through collaboration. We lead through connection. And those are values we talk a lot about at Women Rocking Business. And what advice can you give our listeners who still feel like they sometimes get caught where you were, up against voices that were louder or more dynamic? And what was the part of you that said, I can do that? Okay, I will claim my voice in this space where other voices seem louder.
Well, part of it, I remember one instance in a session with a really, really big guy. I think he was about 6'6", and he was sort of abusive, actually. And there was one moment he was kind of yelling at me, and I got up on a chair and yelled back at him. So it was, and it was, a spontaneous thing that I just decided to do. And it was so enlivening. It was, like all of my shell had come off, and I got to really blossom in my full creative response rather than reacting out of fear. So I'd say number one is to befriend your fear, to find out what your fear signature is so that in the moment you can shift from fear to presence. And then from presence, you can begin to invent from the inside out rather than always reacting to and trying to shape and trying to fit in. And the other thing that I'm so passionate about right now is that I think many women confuse fight, like fighting back. We're encouraged to fight back with actual the resolution and the forging that can come from genuinely contacting your anger. So fight is fear. Fight is the expression of fear, and it runs up the front of your body. So when you're going, oh, that's actually fear. Anger runs up the back of your body, the getting your hackles up. And what we need, in fact, there was an article just out the other day that the only thing that has been moving the climate discussion and climate action is anger.
Yes.
And so, and I think that if women genuinely got angry, we could change the world in a week.
Yes, I love this.
Yeah, so they like, you cannot do that. And I had my first experience of that when I was 9 years old, where I was in a class and the teacher was speaking abusively to one of the other students. And something brought me up out of my chair. And I said, you can't speak to him that way. And it was like, who said that? But it was my anger. And this is also where justice comes from up the, because anger is a response to a fundamental injustice. And so speaking that, and he stopped. It was so, so as a 9-year-old, and I think that a lot of us have those impulses very young in life, but they get, oh, honey, people are like my mother said to me, Kathy, that's what she called me. Boys don't like girls who are too smart. So I was like, fortunately,
my mom said similar things to me. You can't be louder than them. You can't know more than them. And you better not burp in front of them. Well, guess what? My husband thought my belching was kind of cute. So whatever. Yes. Like one of the things you've encouraged me to do is to like be more free, like who you are. You've gotten in touch with like the primal part of you, and the way that you coach your clients to shift from fear to presence is like no other teacher I've ever experienced. Because if we can get back to presence, now we can start resourcing. And this piece around anger, I mean, this is huge. Like when we suppress our anger, we also suppress our creativity. That's like the creative force. So yeah. I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but is there an exercise or like a tool you can teach us to get in touch with, or let that anger or let that power come forth?
Well, what I really encourage people to do is to wake up the area between your shoulder blades. That's where anger actually starts. And it's a slight pulling, and there's science behind this. We actually know at a cellular level, that's where anger starts. And so I think that a lot of it comes from women taking on more than 100% responsibility, and then taking it on as a burden, like it's my job to do this. I have to carry this. I'm the one who has to, gather everybody and call people back and make sure that the dinner is on time, and, all of these bazillion things that women do without even ever sharing it with people. Like, what'd you do today? Oh, nothing. I just all of that. So what you can do right now is just gently move, like, oh, you're opening your wings and back, and just notice, do you feel free there? Do you feel glitchy? Do you have knots there? Some people actually don't have any feeling there, because if you suppress your feeling long enough, it kind of removes itself from the grid and you can't sense it anymore. So I like to also have people like taking up their space. This is your reach space. This is your personal space. It goes out this far. And do you take it all up? No, mostly we kind of, we adjust. So, and feeling like instead of adjusting, you kind of take over the place. I think that's the, and standing, stomping, African dancing, but particularly the motions that come from here, like stop it. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not going to do
I'm
that. And
I'm taking more
those,
notes than I usually take on these interviews, by the way. That's why I keep leaning to the side. I can feel that area opening in me. That makes so much sense that it would be the back of your heart. It's like two
yes,
sides of the same coin, right? We have
yes,
manifestation and resistance. We have, we have the open-hearted willingness to give. And then we have, like, no, wait a second. Like,
yeah,
I have boundaries. Like there are limits,
yes.
to
And
what,
I'm
yeah.
also not a real fan of boundaries because it takes so much energy to maintain them.
Oh, tell me more.
So, what I am a fan of is agreements.
Uh-huh.
What I say I'm going to do and what I say I'm not going to do. And then if someone has made an agreement with me and they don't keep their agreement,
Mm.
that activates anger that most of us kind of go, oh, well, they were, busy with something else or they forgot. Or so to actually say, we were going to be meeting at 11 today and you weren't there, I felt angry. So what this does is you're backing yourself up. You're so that you can have an open heart because
Yeah.
you've got your own back.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to permit that. And this is what I'm standing for. This is what I want. So I've actually, if people don't keep their agreements with me, they don't get to interact with me anymore.
Yeah.
And so then I don't have to monitor boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I want to use my energy for expressing and connecting and
Yeah.
collaborating,
Yeah.
not for monitoring who's stepped on whose toes.
Yeah. And especially when it becomes a pattern, and especially when people don't clean it up. And I could totally see myself saying that to somebody that, like, a personal friend, like, who's potentially not showed up or let me down. Like, I felt really angry.
Yeah.
Can you translate that? Like, what would we say if it was a teammate? Would you recommend saying the same thing? Or is there a way we could say,
Absolutely. So I don't
yeah,
have any I think what we can do is to show up authentic in every moment.
yeah,
So here's who I am. There's no secrets, there's nothing hidden. So I would say, oh, something just happened for me. I'm not, I just started feeling disconnected from you and I can't feel, oh, it's because that was the second time that we haven't quite connected. And so I felt some irritation, but also felt sad.
yeah,
So it's not like a
yeah,
militaristic, it's
yes.
really opening up to what's going on that will allow us to come back into connection or not. We can say, well, we're going in different directions right now. And I just really support that, but this is not what I'm interested in.
Yes.
So actually being able to choose that and going, oh,
Okay, this is huge. Like, I hope y'all are slowing down enough to really pay attention here, because what Katie's modeling is being present with herself. Like, Katie's not modeling that she has the perfect words to say if there's a, disconnect with a team, or if maybe you didn't show up or they didn't show up or whatever it is. Katie's modeling like a way of tuning in, like, wait a second, something happened.
yeah,
And let me just tune in for a moment and see what that is. Oh, this is what I think it is. Like, the power of that pause, it can save relationships. It can, especially with team members, right? Because I know for me, there's times that I'll jump to a conclusion and the team member has a completely different story of what happened. And then I have to look at myself, right? So,
right.
but that willingness to slow down, like, wait a second, something happened. I felt kind of disappointed. What happened for you, right? And then
Yes.
it creates a real dialogue in a situation where two people could create so much of a mess, it could be almost impossible to clean up, right?
Right.
And
And
so
all the layers.
I'm
Yes.
loving this modeling of, like, no, when we're reactionary, we become robotic. We don't want that. We actually want to come home to ourselves.
Yes. And when you come home to yourself, there is this genuine sense of safety. I'm safe because I am in touch with myself. And I create safety because I'm interested in what's actually going on for you. And I'm willing to hang in there for the discovery. The other element of that that I think is so much a part of, especially working with team, is that right along with being present in myself, I'm looking at other people through a lens of appreciation. I genuinely experience the people that I want to have close to me as evolving works of art. And so when some other facet of theirs starts to shine, I go, oh, wow. Like one of my close friends, Audrey, is now, her voice has expanded so that her posts that she gives are so valuable, but they have this oomph in them. And so I was just appreciating this oomph. And that way we can support each other's growth. Just as we would support, like out in front here, I'm just looking out the window, we have this incredible red bud, this tree, which a year ago was like 8 feet, and now it's about 25 feet. And it's really come from being nurtured, from being appreciated. And I think our lives can be just the same, that we're encouraging others to, okay, what's wanting to evolve now? And what's the next choice? And how can we support each other? Because then it supports the whole. So it's power with, not power over. Mm-hmm. And I would say that's probably the thing that I am most offended by is power over, and also contempt. I think that it's our job as women to call out contempt, because contempt plus fear equals hate. And we think, why are people so hateful now? Because they're getting away with being contemptuous. Right. And other people respond in fear. And then we get into this, being careful and, being fearful to make any choices. So I'm really focusing now in my classes on noticing your own contempt when you diminish yourself. So the other thing I would say to women is look at when you make yourself smaller, because you are expressing contempt for yourself in that moment. And look at that. Where did that come from? Where did you learn that? What was the payoff of that? But what might you do instead when you befriended your fear? Then you can also go, I have something to offer.
Right. I love this because women so often, in my experience, resist their own leadership and resist going bigger and resist getting louder and resist being more visible because they're afraid they're going to offend somebody. They're afraid they're not going to know the right thing to say when the conflict arises, because if you're a leader, guess what? Conflict is going to arise.
Yes.
And I just am so grateful for this transmission, because I'm hoping that all of you are really getting, like, you have tools, and, keep following Katie and check her out and check out her trainings, because you have tools to check back in with yourself. You don't have to be this top-down, right, power over leader. You can be collaborative. In fact, I found in building one of the most incredible teams, they love me when I admit that I'm wrong, and when I apologize, and when I ask them for their opinion. And,
yes.
We get to be human together. And that's been the most humbling part of growing this, huge, this movement that's bigger than I thought it would be, of women entrepreneurs. And so, I want to speak to all of you that have that fear and release you from it. And I was afraid of not knowing how to sit in this seat of having a big team and doing all the things. And I'm using a lot of Katie's tools in my leadership to stay curious, in my leadership, to stay curious with my fiance, who sometimes needs me to turn off my boss CEO mode and get into fiance right. mode. And so, as we wrap up, Katie, is there any other advice you'd give to women leaders that have had to be so strong and have had to find it when they don't have it, and find that spectrum of leading and also, being a friend and a mom and a partner and whatever other roles we play?
Yes.
It's an awful lot.
That's just coming to me as you're saying this, Sage, which I'm also recognizing in you, that you have expanded your ability to receive. And it really shows up in this, there's more of this in you, and more, and so I really invite women, because we're not trained to receive, we're trained to give. And so really opening up to your fears about receiving, oh, I couldn't possibly, and if there's space, and the more you let yourself receive, the more you can be supported to be giving your particular genius.
Amen and a woman and all the things. Thank you in advance, every single one of you, for opening up to receiving, for finding that place behind your heart, in the back of your shoulders, that gets to admit when you're angry, that gets to admit when, when it doesn't feel good to you. And I just love Katie's bold redirection of, I don't know, boundaries can be really messy. What about agreements? I don't know, the feminine can be really murky. What about just how do we lead like women who are these multidimensional creatures, absolutely like ready to, rock the world? I remember being at a concert with you, Katie, and, by the end of the concert, I think several of us were up on our feet, you, me, Claire Zamet, and we're like, go women, go women. Put the women in charge, put the women in charge, right? Like Kevmo. And so, what words would you leave these women with who are feeling inspired by you? How do we find out more about you? What's the best website to go to? And we'll get that in the show notes and in the comments alongside this.
Super. Well, the place you can go to get dozens of free videos and tips about how to come home to yourself primarily, but how to really express your genius in the world, is foundationforconsciousliving.org. And our seminars are on hendricks.com. Our seminars and more of our relationship stuff, but a lot of our free stuff is on the Foundation for Conscious Living. And we also have a Facebook page where we have lots of relationship tips that you can experience every day. And I would say I want every woman to really own that you are a unique, evolving work of art and worth celebrating every day.
Katie, thank you for all the work that you've done inside yourself to be that woman that said, yes, I can take up that space. Thank you for becoming the most incredible, unique work of art that is Dr. Katie Hendricks. I'm so proud to know you and to be in this world with you and to be your friend. And I look forward to more.
Oh, wonderful. Me too. Mwah. Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody. Don't forget to hit subscribe so I can keep getting you weekly content to grow your business that is relevant, authentic, and effective, so you can get out there and shine your light and be the messenger that you're here to be, because your clients are waiting for you.